Okay, in this video, I'm going to make a subdivision of a subdivision. So I'm going to subdivide one rectangle, which I will draw right now, into super blocks, and then I will subdivide those super blocks into blocks or parcels or cadastral lots. And as I do it, we'll sort of try and hit the parameters of this old built form here in Hobart, where you can see there's a setback obviously from the road because everything's kind of aligned. There's obviously some breaks to that setback, like every city, nothing's perfect. And then you can see there's a larger, like if you imagine that being the division between that parcel and that parcel, they're these nice deep rear gardens, sort of 20 meters deep. Let's start transforming. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the subdivide lot. I'm going to open the flow builder. And this shows you how the flow builder works. You've got the input feature, which is the rectangle. Then this blue square represents an algorithm, which is a subdivide algorithm, and the two greens represent the outputs, which is a site output and an envelope output. And so I can assign a usage to the output. So I'm going to go feature planning, and I'm going to say the envelope is a residential envelope with let's say three levels. And then I can click on the algorithm and edit the parameters. So we said the rear parcels were about 20 meters. So if I do that, then you can see, and this is what's amazing, as you edit these parameters on the left, you actually see the impact of those edits in each of these preview windows. And so if I save changes, you can see there is a subdivision. I mean, that's not natural because I've drawn a very big rectangle. So what we want to do is we want to subdivide this subdivision. So I'm going to delete this site because we don't need it. We're going to be operating with two subdivisions, so I'll put in another one. And when I click that plus button, we get the identity transform. So it takes stuff and just gives the stuff out. You know, f of x equals x. And I'm going to apply I'm going to apply subdivision again. Okay, so it's subdivide to subdivide. Now there's an issue here where the super lots are not 20 meters. They're closer to 180 meters. So you can see now it's dividing into three. Maybe it's 200 meters. Let's leave it at this for now, and we'll come back and fiddle with it later. I'll show you how. And what we're going to do is we're going to pretend the envelopes. We're going to set the envelopes, rather than being residential buildings like they are currently, we're going to set them as sites. And the setbacks are going to be the separation between those sites. And I'm going to set those setbacks, the side and the rear setbacks, to 10 meters. You can see that there. And that 10 meters, because there's a 10 meter setback on each side of the boundary, sums up to a total of a 20 meter separation. And 20 meters is a good width for a road. You know, 4 cars, 2 pavements, 20 meters, it's a good amount. So I've changed the parameters of this subdivide lots. And then I'm just going to change this parameters of this subdivide lot, which, because we just added it, is it's coming with the defaults. And I said the rear setback was about 20 meters, and let's set the front to 3. Save those changes. Okay, cool. I think that's pretty cool. That's looking closer. Now I'll sort of show you something here. Is in this view, if you don't want to get into the generative editor or the flow builder, you can see the flow here. So if I click on this, you can sort of see, like you can backtrace, and you can, if I click on this residential, you can see where this is coming from, you know, in terms of the algorithms that the base rectangle is passing through to be converted into these things over here. So the last one's this residential one. And this first one is the overall one. So I'm trying to get this a bit bigger. So maybe if we say target is 220, there we go. Now we're actually getting dividing into 2 roads, which is what we wanted. But this, and if we click on this again and we look at here, the residential one, the inner frontage is about 20 meters. And if we pull this back, you can see these parcels are not 20 meters. These parcels are closer to sort of 10, right? So let's set the target to, let's just set it to 15 rather than 10, and I'll set that to, there we go. Yeah, that's, oh, why not go to 12? 12? There you go. I mean, it looks very narrow now. I may you see that's probably too narrow. So let's go to 14, and I'll just stop faffing. The side setbacks appear to be like a little bit smaller than the 2 meters. They're sort of like almost 1 meter, could be a bit less. And the front setback, it's hard to ascertain. It's probably slightly more. The reason it's hard to ascertain is because this block here between Melville and Bathurst is actually bigger than Bathurst and Goulburn, which our little hacked subdivision of a subdivision is not going to be able to accommodate. Actually, you know what? I'm going to see if it is able to accommodate it. It is. It is. I take that back. John and Chen have built the most fully featured beast that it's possible to imagine. Incredible. Incredible. So that front setback, I think, is a bit more. Here we go. All right. All right. Okay, there is something going on here which we won't be able to meet, is that the setbacks on Bathurst look like they're a little smaller than Goulburn. And you can see here there's like a nice output for a town planner that you're seeing a constant rear setback have a different impact on the built envelope. Like, because these sites are longer and the rear setback is not a function of like a percentage or a dynamic amount, it's a constant 18 meters. These are much smaller. So the solution would be to change them dynamically, or to equalize these roads a bit more. Groovy. All right, 250. There we go. Okay, built form. Now I'm almost happy with this, but I want to get a bit more on the site stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export these sites, and I'm going to set their usage to something nice and green. Deep planting, save changes. Excellent. We get that nice green. I'm just going to turn off the other buildings, and I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to offset the super lot, like with some nice rounded corners, so that we get to visualize that sort of road reserve a bit better. So I'm going to come back to here, and I'm going to get this envelope, which, remember, in the first subdivision algorithm, the envelope represents the super block. We then subdivide the envelope into blocks or parcels. And so there you go. I just click that, then I click plus, and I'm just going to choose the transform that's going to be round corner. No, sorry. Wrong. I'm going to choose offset polygon, and I'm going to offset it by 2 meters. 2 meters, and I'm going to offset it with round corners. And now I'll give it a usage in its green output box, and I will set the usage to feature planning, and I'll save changes. Okay, excellent. Now something's happening here. As you can see, the feature planning is higher than the deep planning. And so if I just open this and come to the planting, you can see the height there is 1.1. So I'll save those. Then I'm going to go to so hang on, deep. Now I want this to be 0.2. Save. And then in feature planning, I want you to be 0.1. Save. There we go. So now the deep is above the feature. So it's taller. So I've used the usage editor to change the usages which are being output. So you can see how all of the bits of giraffe kind of fit together in a most delightful way. All right, bang. Okay, I think that is pretty cool. So a subdivision of a subdivision. We're using some manual overrides. You can see that giraffe doesn't really care about rectangles. The algorithms are powerful enough to deal with kind of squiff rectangles, but not all urban shapes. But let's say we're planning a new subdivision. You can see the algorithm kind of shears and stretches things, and there's a way you can get around that by adding a poly, like another point, which kind of straightens up everything except for the last bit. And I think that's it. That's a really good representation of the built form here. Like, within, what are we in, 9 minutes. And hopefully you've got your head around how you can concatenate these functions, subdivision and subdivision and offsets, and use the usages as well to visualize. And of course you can count these things up and see the impacts of constant rear setbacks, etc. on the built form.